The following story took place when I was 12. I learnt at school that a haunted carnival was coming to town for the Halloween weekend. According to the flyer, the carnival originated somewhere in Eastern Europe back in 1535 and had travelled the world ever since, gaining a reputation as one of the scariest attractions on the circuit. Its most famous attraction was a haunted house ride that I knew I wanted to see. My friends and I knew our parents wouldn't allow us to go alone, so we came up with the plan that one of my friends was having a sleepover, and we got his older brother to fake a phone call to each of our parents, but the real plan was to go to the carnival. We got there around 7, so it was already dark. The carnival lived up to its reputation. It looked spectacular. It was all lit up and filled with old looking rides. The carnies were dressed up in vintage uniforms, and they even had actors dressed up as demons and monsters for the added creepy effect. We all bought some tickets and went on a bunch of cool rides as well as interacting with some of the actors, and that's when I saw it, the haunted house. It looked awesome, like something straight out of a horror movie. Only one of my friends had the balls to join me, so we handed in our tickets and took a seat in one of the carts. The ride was set up with single carts that had 2 seats with a minute between each cart entering the house. It was extremely dark inside with a haze machine for effect. We passed some of those strange mirrors that made our bodies look elongated, while simultaneously passing through thick cobwebs that had electronic giant spiders that descended from the ceiling. Then, a chainsaw wielding actor burst through a fake curtain before retreating back. A classic scare tactic, and embarrassed to say, it worked. We rounded the corner, and the car entered some shallow water, and stopped. We looked around. Nothing was happening. I called out, "Hello?" but got nothing. We didn't know if this was part of the ride or whether we'd literally broken down. Suddenly, zombie hands reached out from the water, grabbing at the cart, rocking it back and forth. I found it funny, but my friend almost pissed himself, and the cart continued. We entered a long, narrow corridor, and at the far end, standing beneath the emergency exit, was a creepy clown. It wasn't moving, it just stared at us. At this point, my friend was almost crying, but I knew it was either a statue or a paid actor, so I wasn't so worried. As we got beside the clown, I reached out to touch its hand to see if it was a statue, when the clown grabbed me and violently tried to pull me from the cart. "Hey, what are you doing?" I started screaming as he continued to drag me from the cart. My friend grabbed hold of me, but this didn't stop him. He was just trying to drag me from the cart like I was some kind of rag doll. Then, another cart entered the corridor, and the clown quickly let go of me and rushed out the emergency exit, setting off all of the alarms. I was shook. Tears were streaming down my face, and I had red marks on my arms from where he'd been grabbing me. Outside, I told the carny operating the haunted house about the incident. He told me they hadn't hired any clown actors and immediately called the police. I had to come clean to my parents, because the police took me home to make an official statement. The police did an investigation and received full cooperation from the carnival, but the clown was never caught as far as I'm aware. I still bear the psychological marks of that night, and I developed a phobia of clowns for a few years after. I still wonder to this day what would have happened if my friend hadn't been there to help me, and whether or not I would have been the clown's first kidnapping victim, or even its last. A few years ago, I got a job through an agency at a local carnival that opens 9 months of the year. The money's pretty good, and, depending how the carnival does during the season, you usually get a winter bonus to see you through the 3-month gap. My job description was a night watchman. The job basically consisted of me sitting in my truck, watching movies on my laptop, and patrolling the site every hour or so, which suits me perfect, as I was basically getting paid to watch movies all night. It was about 2 AM and I can't remember what I was watching exactly, but it had to have been something boring because for the first time I struggled to keep my eyes open. In the background, I could hear a very low musical sound. I paused my movie and listened. It was definitely music. I took out my flashlight and headed out. As I got closer, the music got louder and I could see flashing lights around the corner. It was the old carousel. It had been switched on, spinning around and playing music. I called out in case one of the workers had come to do some maintenance and forgot to check in with me. There was no response. I switched off the generator and an eerie silence hung in the air. That's when I saw a man in a hoodie leap off the back. "Hey!" I called out as I gave chase. I followed him round the back of the bumper cars. "You're not supposed to be here." But he didn't turn back. He just kept moving. I rounded the corner expecting to find him, but he was gone. I'm assuming he'd hopped the fence. I was feeling relieved because I didn't want to have to deal with the confrontation. So, I had a quick look over the fence, shining my flashlight into the surrounding woodland, but he was gone. So, I turned around and headed back to my truck. When I got there, I stopped dead in my tracks when I noticed the driver's side rear door was ever so slightly open. And I know for a fact I hadn't left it like that. Instead of approaching my truck, I decided to call the police. They arrived within minutes. I told them about the suspicious trespasser and about my truck. The two officers drew the firearms and approached my vehicle. They called out to whoever was in the truck to come out with their hands up. Moments later, the same hooded man slowly climbed out the rear of my car. He was taken down by the police officers and cuffed to the ground. They did a body check and found a 10-inch machete hidden inside his sleeve. He would later admit that he had seen my truck the previous night and had planned to kill me and steal it. I didn't know what made me notice the door slightly open that night, but I quit doing the night security at the carnival the following day. I still help out on the stalls every now and then for a bit of extra cash, but as far as I'm concerned, working night security is a life-threatening job. At the time of this experience, I was 16 years old. There used to be a local carnival that appeared 3 or 4 times a year, only a 5-minute walk from my house. I planned to go to the carnival one Friday night and meet some friends, but my parents had a work thing and asked me to babysit my 7-year-old sister. I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't really have a choice. Anyway, an hour or so after my parents left, my friends were sending me pictures from the carnival, and it looked awesome. I decided to go and to take my little sister with me. I'd only be an hour, and I'd be back before my parents got home. Everything would be fine, or so I thought. We did the 5-minute walk and got to the carnival around 8ish, and it was busy to say the least. We met up with a few of my friends, and we went on a few rides. We were limited to what we could actually go on, because my little sister didn't meet a lot of the minimum height restrictions, but we still had fun. My sister pointed out an old woman that she thought had been following us around the carnival. I hadn't really noticed, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I mean, it's an old woman. So we continued having fun. After about an hour, we said goodbye to my friends and went to grab some food before heading back home. My only thought was to get home before my parents did. Buying a burger for my sister was a ploy to buy her silence. If my parents knew where we'd been, I'd be grounded for the rest of my life. I queued up for about 5 minutes and ordered a couple of burgers and fries. I turned to ask my sister what sauce she wanted, only my sister wasn't there. I called out her name and looked around, but she was gone. I left the food on the table and quickly looked around the vendor. I began a frantic search of the area, but I couldn't find her. I took out my phone and was about to call the police when I saw her in the distance, being led away, hand in hand, by an old woman. I screamed out and started running after them. A security guard came over and I pointed out, "That's my little sister," and he too gave chase. The old woman was moving faster now, incredibly fast for someone that old. Other people from the carnival overheard the commotion and they too gave chase. At this point, the old woman's wig fell off and you could clearly see it was a man wearing old lady clothes and makeup. He let go of my sister and jumped into his waiting car and sped off. He covered my sister in a cloud of dust. I grabbed her, pulling her in tight. I asked her why she'd gone with this person when she knows better, and what she said next made my skin crawl. She said the old woman claimed to be a friend of our grandma's and even knew my grandma by name. I shivered. What else did this person know about us, and how long had they been planning this? My parents were horrified, and as a punishment they grounded me for 2 weeks. I got off lightly because, although I shouldn't have taken my sister to the carnival, I was also the one who saved her.